Welcome back. Let's start off and talk about the academics. So for the academics, if you recall, I told you that there are only 30 schools out of 120 popular schools who have an average score of less than 1,300. For your SAT score, you still are going to need relatively high scores. With a SAT score of 1,300, you'll be applying to schools with acceptance rates of anywhere from 30 to 70%. 50% acceptance means every two people that apply, one of those two is going to get in. It obviously changes the makeup of the types of students that go to your school. Though I don't think this is necessarily a bad thing. Still, in the United States, you're going to get a phenomenal education, even if you go to anywhere in the top 100 schools, but definitely within the top 50, you'll be very proud and excited by what you're offered in the United States. One thing that I think is very important for you to understand up front is that if you don't plan on getting a 1450 plus, if you don't want to get 38 on your IB and relatively largely A's on your levels, then you can decide what your strategy will be for your extracurriculars. They no longer necessarily need somebody who has a giant spike. They are okay with somebody who's more well-rounded. If you're okay with the acceptance rates of 30% to 60% to 70%, then here's what I consider as your bare minimum. You can get 85% on your CBSE, you can get B and A averages in your levels, and you can get 5, 6s, and some 7s as well for your ed curriculum, likely a 35 plus, okay? When it comes to your extracurriculars, there's some bare minimums that you need. One is gonna be your community service. Ideally, you should be starting this in 9th, where you're directly going at the grassroots. The second thing is your academic interest. So you need a storyline that shows that you have demonstrated interest in the major you have selected. So you might do an internship in economics, you might write a research paper focused on econ. Both of these things will help you explain why you're choosing the major that you're choosing, right? There are 2 more requirements that I have. One is that you should have a leadership role. So you can be the treasurer. Ideally, though, it would be good if you were a vice president or a president of any organization that you had, or a team captain, house captain. Any of those prove that you're a leader. In total, I would say you need at least 3 to 5 activities. Some of these will overlap. So for example, if you're president of the economics club, then you've shown that you have an academic interest, which is your economics, but you've also shown that you can be a leader by being a president of a club. You have to be careful because if you decide to join 3 activities, they have to go as per the tiers that we talked about in the previous module. You can't only say that you are going to be a member of 3 different clubs. For schools, that is as good as very limited, low-hanging fruit extracurriculars, and there isn't much value that's attached to that. So when you're looking at your overall expertise and your overall extracurriculars, make sure that you have a variety of different difficulties of what you're taking on so that you can show something as your core focus within your extracurriculars. And the last and final thing that you do need for this is an honor and award, right? We can't leave that honor section blank. So look for an award that you can get that is not the lowest hanging fruit of an academic excellence award, but some other competition that you might have won or some recognition that you have within your school. If you don't want to participate in 3 to 5 activities, there is a different way that you can do it, but it requires a lot more work. There was a student who got into Stanford. He had one major activity, and that was that he had started an environmental organization, a nonprofit. It was saving battery waste from going into the landfills and other sort of environmentally damaging goods. He prevented 1 ton worth of garbage from entering the landfills. And for that, he got recognized on an international level and got the Child's Peace Prize, which is a very difficult accomplishment. He did not have anything else on his resume, frankly, for extracurriculars, but he was spending so many hours on this and it showed, and he was able to prove that with the outcome that he got, right? So whether you decide to be well-rounded, your strategy has to be different. And if you decide to be deeply passionate, your strategy has to be a little bit different. Both work, just depends which way you decide works for you. Okay, so if you want to do the bare minimum, what are the takeaways from that? One is that you have to be okay with schools accepting 50% of students. And the second is that your extracurriculars do not go to 0 hours a week, right? You still will be spending about 4 hours a week. And so there is still a lot of work that needs to be done in between your academics as well as your extracurriculars for you to get accepted into schools that are within the top 50 in the United States. I do want you to continue to keep comments at the bottom of the screen. I will definitely get back to you and try to help you with any questions you might have about what you learned.